Hi, and welcome to today's tutorial, today's presentation on the KETRON AUDYA series. Before I get any further in my presentation today, I just want to say that a lot of you have asked questions with regards to the AUDYA series, with regards to the SD series as well. What is it that makes these machines different? And so what we decided to do is to use a real life practical example. And in that example, we're going to be explaining the different functions that are used in the AUDYA. In this particular case, some of these functions, or most of them actually, will be unique to the AUDYA series, which are not available on the SD series. But I believe that really the best way going forward to do some of these demonstrations and tutorials is to show you how these tools that these machines offer can be used in practical examples. And by practical example, I mean by performing particular tunes. So you can say audio drums, you can say live guitars, but to some people who are still just musicians, that does not necessarily register the way it should, right? If I talk about functions like Keytunes and functions like guitar mode, these don't mean anything until we can show you practical examples as to how these tools can be used should this machine fall into your hands. And so the next couple of videos going forward, that's the approach that we're going to use here at KETRON USA. In other words, coming down with a true example and then later on explaining how we were able to achieve that. And in this particular case, everything that we're doing is live, okay? So to produce a song that was recorded in the 60s, what do you have to do? You have to have a drum set that sounds like the way the drum sets were tuned in the 60s, the way they were mic'd and recorded in the 60s. And so for that, we have this particular beat here. If you listen to the drums, you can almost hear the vinyl in it, the vinyl. You can almost hear that vintage, okay, that's the word I was looking for, the vintage sound in the drum sets. And so we've actually been able to recreate that on the AUDYA because here at KETRON USA and KETRON in general, we pay attention to authentic sound. So you can produce modern music or you can produce not too modern music. So in this case, we're going to try and produce or play a tune that was made famous by Roy Orbison. And no, Janice, it's not Pretty Woman, but that was a good guess. We're going to try and produce that, and you're going to see me doing, recalling sounds, recalling voices, recalling rhythms, playing the sounds, using the pedals to bring in different sounds. All this is being done in real time as we perform this particular piece. So sit back and relax, listen to the song, and then we'll come back and explain, along the way, what are the features that we use in the KETRON AUDYA 5 to be able to reproduce that particular song. And mind you, whatever I'm doing here on the AUDYA 5 is also applicable to the AUDYA, which is the 76 version, and the AUDYA 4, which is the module version of this. Before me today, I have the AUDYA 5, and we're going to get along and get started with this example. Of course, when you want to produce a song of this caliber, it's only but proper that if you are a musician, you want to add your own taste and your own spice to the meal, okay? So that's what I'm doing right now for the beginning, and then I'm going to dive right into the song. I'm going to give you that view so you can see what I'm doing with the pedals. I have two volume pedals. I have one here on my right foot and I have another one here on my left where I can have like wah-wah effect and stuff. So I'm going to bring in different voices as I'm performing, and you're going to hear these also. And right here to my far right, I have a sustain. I can sustain that sound and let go, okay? And of course it goes on and on and on and on. Okay, so pay attention as I do this, as I'm performing this live for you. Let me take out my microphone from talk mode so I can get my effects coming in right about now. Testing, 1, 2. That sounds good. Introduction. Every time I look into your lovely eye, I see a love that money just can't buy. One look from you, I drift away. I pray that you are here to stay. Everything I want, you got it. Anything you need, you got it. Anything at all, you got it. Every time I hold you, I begin to understand. Everything about you tells me I'm your man. Try again. Every time I hold you, I begin to understand. Everything about you tells me I'm your man. I live my life to be with you. No one can do the thing you do. Anything you want, you got it. Anything you want, you got it. Anything you want, you got it, baby. Baby. Anything you've got it. Anything you want, you've got it. Anything you need, you've got it, baby. Anything you want, you got it, baby. Anything you need, you got it, baby. Anything you want, you got it, baby. 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 So, anything you want, you got it, you need it, right? So there was a lot of things that were going on in that particular piece, okay? So we're going to explain it, we're going to break it down into exactly how was that piece arranged. These are arranger keyboards, and a lot of questions have been coming in about how do you know what style to pick, how do you know what tune or what voice to pick for a particular tune or a particular song. So before we get to that, let's talk about some of the unique features used in this particular production, okay? So the first thing you'll notice is the guitars at the beginning of the song, correct? Okay, when we went ahead and picked that particular song, first of all, we picked a style that was vintage, okay, that had the vintage drums. And of course, you pick the style based on your style selection and you check it out and make sure that the style is what you're looking for. And then you adjust the tempo. Now, even though it's a live drum and we have live drums and live guitars, you can adjust the tempo and don't have any change to the pitch. So we pick a tempo that's very comfortable. And then we also pick the voicing, okay? So there's a function on this, and this also is available on the SD9, which is called Voice to ABC in the Audia series. If I go to style mode, and let's go over to the screen here quickly so you can see what I am talking about. Okay, so if you go to style mode, okay, you notice F1 through F5, sorry, F1 through F5 can make selections on the left, to the left of the keyboard here. Okay, right here. So these are all diagonal to the functions on the screen. So if I go into mode page 2 of 2, I have this particular A, B, C, D, which means I can assign voices. So let's go to the screen real quick. So when the arranger A button is lit, I can assign, in this case, Ajam in space is the voice that is selected. So when I press the arranger B button, then what's going to happen is the voice in B right there, which is digital choir, will be selected, okay, and so on and so forth. So the D, I didn't put anything because I want to show you how you do that, right? So to do that, pretty much you just select, in this case I'm going to press F4 right there, which coincides with that space. Make that selection, okay, and then come over here to the panel and pick a voice I want to put in there. Let's say I want to put a piano. I'm just going to hit piano, and you see on the screen it gives you the first voice in that bank, concert grand. So I'm going to turn the wheel until I can find whatever piano I want, and you can notice on the top right hand corner of the screen it still gives you a display of what the voice is. So in this case I can put in Latin piano, okay, and then F5 says style embedded. So do you want this function? Do you want these sounds to be embedded in the style? Of course, I'm going to say on, okay? You could say on or off. If you say off, then it's going to ignore this. And sometimes you want to play live, like you want to actually play by yourself. So what I mean by that is that sometimes when you're performing, you don't want the machine to switch the sounds as you switch the variations. You want to be the one to go in and pick those sounds. But if you notice, I didn't want to do that because I was already pushing a lot of buttons. So I wanted a lot of things to be automated when I made my selection. So if I pick a variation to the rhythm, it calls up the new sound in that variation as well. Okay, so that's what I was trying to explain. And of course, F10 global enabled means that do you want this function to be enabled on all styles or just for this particular style? So I have it on in that particular case. So what happens, again, to demonstrate, as you notice, when I was in Arranger A, you heard this voice, okay? And when Arranger B was selected, you heard that voice, which is the choir. Arranger C, okay? So that is the automatic voice switching that occurs when I am performing as I'm going from one variation to another. That's the first thing, voice to ABC, assigning a voice to the various variation parts. The next big thing, and I think I skipped something very important, that which you heard at the introduction or partially part way into the introduction, was the live guitar, okay? And for me to demonstrate that, I need to do this. So that particular song, you know, it starts off, if I take out the drums and take out the bass and you hear just the guitars, that particular tune starts off with something like this. Now, the way Roy did it, there's a part in the introduction which is a triple. In other words, the way he plays his strums on the guitar is a 16th note, not a 4, not a 8, like a. And to mimic that on the arranger, remember the last video we did, we spoke about the interactive arranger, right? Now that's a unique feature to the Audia, which is not on the SD90. Which means that when the audio guitar is playing, you can control and you can strum manually like this. So what I'm doing is to actually hear that, you know, well, I'm going to go ahead and mute the other parts of the arranger so you can hear just the guitar. Okay, so that's how it is. Every time I look into your lovely eyes, money and gun, you know, and so on and so forth. But that's the idea, right? The double strumming or the triple strum that I was doing in the beginning of that song. And you can control the velocity because you don't want it to be too sensitive, right? So for those of you who have the AjamSonic version of this machine, if you go in, it's already been tuned for you. So if I go in right now and you look at the live arrangement, interactive guitar, which is on the screen right here. I'm going to switch over so you can see it. Okay, F2. It's set at 79, which means that the higher you go in number, the harder you must strum before the guitar responds to your performance. Okay, so if you are performing, you don't want to make it too sensitive, a low number, because that means that each time you play, it's going to re-trigger. It's going to, you know, it's going to stop playing and then play what you're playing live. You want the number to be a little bit high such that when you play hard, then it triggers. That way you're not making a mistake. You know, when I play normally right now, you can actually listen to the guitar. And then if I can drop the number, but I changed it. Here we go. Respond. Okay, so that's a unique Audia feature. I don't think any other keyboard actually has that, to be honest with you. So that allows you to control that live guitar. That's the second thing that we did. Okay, now the third thing that we also did was registrations, and I don't think anyone has actually spoken about this before. On this keyboard, you have two kinds of registrations. You have your single registrations, which is what is found on many arranger keyboards, where you're able to set and store settings. Okay, it's a snapshot of the keyboard at any given time. Now, how do those registrations work? You pick your rhythm, you pick your voices, you pick your voice to ABC, your setup, your vocalizer, your harmonizer, and then you save it as a song setting, so that when you go to the gig, all you have to do is recall that particular song setting. In the Audia, we also have super registrations, otherwise known as block registrations. And a block registration can store 20 things. Okay, those 20 things can be either of these. It can be registrations, which are single registrations. It can be styles. It can be voices. It can be WAV files. It can be MP3 files. It can be text or lyric files. Any combination of all of those can be stored as a super registration, such that when you recall that registration, it will recall all those individual elements. Now, to better explain this, let me go to the screen so you can see what I did here as well. Okay, so let's go down here so you look at my screen. These are my super registrations that I have right now. Okay, block registrations. And so if I go here, I have this one here, which is You Got It. And so when I load that, okay, initially F1 through F10 were all empty. But when I load this, what did I get? I now get F1, which is You Got It, but that's a registration. Okay, so if I press F1, it's going to load the registration, which loads the sound, the styles, and the voices. If I press F2, it's going to load the text. Okay, now I can add more things into the super registration. Okay, so F3 right now is empty. I can go in and I can hit edit, and I want to put into F3 a particular voice. Let's say I want to put a piano. Okay, I'm going to go now and I'm going to go to piano. I'm going to pick the Ajam Latin piano, and when I press enter, it's going to be set or stored into that location that we just came from. Okay, so once I do that, I can get out of there. And if you, let's see, oh, we have to hit replace. I forgot to do that. So I want to hit the replace button, and I want to select what I want to replace. So in this case, I want to replace this empty with a voice. Let's call it Ajam Latin piano, and I press enter, and that piano gets put into that location. Let's do another one. F4 is empty right now. I want to replace that with, let's say, an organ. I'm going to go in organ. I'm going to pick my Ajam organ morph, or let's go to page 2, and I'm going to pick this B3 vibrato, and I'm going to press enter, and that voice is going to be stored in there right now. Okay, so you keep on doing that and doing that. Now in F7, I'm going to pick, let's see, a piano voice. I want to put a voice in there, enter, and let's say here I want to put a saxophone, just to, you know, give you an example. Press enter. So now I have that super registration. Okay, and I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to press save on the bottom of the screen right there, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it You Got It by typing on the keys over here on the keyboard. That's Y, that's O, that's U, this is a space right there, U, that's G O T, and this is I T. Save. You got it? Yes, I want to override that. Okay, so as you can see now, these are my block registrations. So whenever I load this, it's going to load all of these things I just created right now in that particular case. Why am I showing you this? Because when I did the song, okay, when I hit F1, as you notice, I was playing the song with the vintage live drum. Okay, remember I spoke about the vintage set. Somewhere in the middle of the song, I switched over and I was using a Latin begin. Okay, so this is the song as I was playing before. Bring the drums and bring in the bass. I'm gonna do like a Latin right there, switch. So what happened? The voice switched and the rhythm also switched, and they were all in the same time. And all I had to do was hit F6. This is my super block registration. which I can store 20 things. The first 10 are displayed F1 through F10. If I hit the arrow button on the right, or sorry, if I turn the wheel, I go over to the next page of 10 more registrations, block registrations or super registrations. Okay, so that was the other thing that I did that was unique to the particular tune as well. So that I think is a very, very powerful tool, because it means that you can arrange all your files and keep them and have them in one place, and just use F1 through F10 to recall everything as you're performing live that particular tune. It also means that you can have a block registration, and which is made up of single registrations, and each of those may have different variations of the style. So instead of pressing the variation, you just hit the registration. It'll take you to whatever you create, whatever you created at that particular time. So that is a very powerful tool indeed to keep in mind. Now, another tool on the machine which I did not demonstrate right yet, but I was keeping the best for last, is this one here called the Keytunes. Keytune on the SD90 is very similar in a way to the Launchpad, which means that you can actually have audio elements which you can assign to any particular key, right? So in this case, I've actually assigned my audio element to these last two keys here. And again, what I did was I actually, looked at the original file, the original song by the artist, and just took out some vocal snippets, right? Which, if I'm performing live, for an example, I can instantly recall those by just pressing that particular key. So if I look at the keyboard, if I show you the keyboard from the top, which I am supposed to do by doing this, there we go. You're going to see that this button is on here, Keytune. Okay, so if I hit Keytune, and I'm going to hit You Got It, which is my vocal. Now, once I load that in, it means that all my different WAV files have been loaded respectively onto the key. I'm going to take out the pedals for now, and I'll bring them back in later, so you can see what I'm doing. So in this case, watch what happens when I press these keys over here. So you can hear, okay, the audio, the guitar and everything else, but again, that's coming from the original record, and I can assign as much as I want, to the different files. Remember, those WAV files, if you notice, the WAV button was flashing there because these were tied to that particular audio which I was using, right? So that is a very, very interesting feature indeed, because with Keytunes, you can use your own audio files, right? And not have to run out of memory, because it's triggering them or streaming them in real time from the SSD drive that you have in this machine. So that feature alone is a lot. Okay. Now, the other thing I didn't talk about, which I will talk about right now also, is the pedals. And I think, no, I did cover that in the beginning, right? I did mention the fact that I was going to use the pedals to be able to call in different voices and different parts of the voices in real time. So the voices are actually not just recall, but also put the voices in motion, okay, so that I can control them. Now, I know it's a lot to digest and a lot to deal with when you're talking about using a tool of this caliber, right? But just like anything else, you just practice, and with us, we will support you. And that's the good thing about dealing with KETRON USA, because we are there to support you. We don't just sell a product to you and then we leave you hanging. We actually are a phone call away or a video call away, as it's been lately, or you can join us on Facebook or YouTube, or you can just ask questions and we will get to you to support you to be able to use this machine to the fullest, to the best of your capacity. Okay, so I'm going to do another demonstration, but I think that that was, targeting that particular feature. All right. The one thing also I think I don't remember covering that also is a vocalizer, right? So you notice that when we did the voice to A, B, C, D, we assigned voices to the different variation parts. Well, we also assigned vocalizer parts as well too. So if we go back here to the screen, if I go to the vocalizer and I press and hold that for 2 seconds, okay, it's going to activate the vocalizer. I want to go into the screen, vocalizer to arranger, okay, and let me take out the reverb there so you can see what I'm talking about. So now when I press the two together, we're in talk mode. Okay, so if you notice, Vocalizer to Arranger is the setting which was picked up. What is happening here? If I press edit, I can now go and show you how I was able to create that. Okay, so in the Vocalizer, I can go in and I'm going to assign the different parts. Okay, if you see where it says Vocalizer to Arranger, which is F10. So when the start button is pressed, what's the action right now? It's off. Let's go to the screen so you can see. So these buttons, the start, the stop, arranger A, B, C, D, are all assigned to these functions on the right. So in this case, when the start button is pressed, nothing happens. So you can hear my voice. When the stop button is pressed, also nothing happens. When arranger A, when I'm singing, every time I look into your lovely eyes, there's no harmonizer there. Now when I go to the second part, arranger B, where I start to sing, one look from you, I drift away, you can see I chose the Vocalizer option up 1. Arranger C will pick the standard Vocalizer 2, and Arranger D will pick the block chord up. So what does that mean? That means that when Arranger A is on, not only are you changing the variation of the style, but you are also changing the Vocalizer setting for each of those. And you're also changing the voice, right? So instead of changing the variation and then going to the voice and picking a new voice and coming to the harmonizer and picking a new one, no, you're tied everything to these 4 buttons, actually to all of the arranger buttons over here. So when I press arranger A, the rhythm, the style is changing. Okay, the voice that's going to be assigned to that is changing. The Vocalizer setting that's assigned to that is changing. When I press arranger B, again, the style and its elements are changing. The voice assigned to arranger B is changing, and the Vocalizer setting or microphone setting that is assigned to Vocalizer B is also changing. When I pick variation C, the same thing and same thing. You can actually see the voices are also changing in real time. Now, another interesting thing about the Audia, which leaves the SD9 a little bit behind, is the intensity and depth of the Vocalizer. So we're now in edit mode. Let me show you something. The Audia has a 5-part Vocalizer. Okay, the SD90, SD960 have a 3-part Vocalizer with limited capabilities in terms of how you edit. The Audia has a 5-part Vocalizer, and I'm going to show you exactly how deep this is, right? So I can go into the equalizer of the Vocalizer, all right? And you can see I have a flat curve there, but I can actually EQ, and this is applied to just the harmony voices. I can actually go in and select and increase or decrease the various frequencies as I see fit. Okay, so I can edit the EQ curve. On the SD90, I believe you have a couple of presets and that's it. Now this is where it gets more and more interesting. If I go to voice edits, okay, I can actually see the 5 voices that make up the harmony. So you can see the columns there, column 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are the 5 voices. And for each of those voices, I can adjust the volume, I can adjust the pan, I can adjust the format, I can detune the voice, I can assign a cutoff, and the resonance of each of those voices. Okay, so this is what happens with the different voices. I have 5 of them, and I can edit these different parameters for the 5 voices. Okay, now, not only that, I can also go into where it says effects, okay, and I can have effects send. I can control the effects send for the voices. I can also select a different preset reverb, which is independent of the reverb of the machine itself, of the global reverb, okay, or I can link them together. I can also do an echo preset stereo tap. Now this is where it gets interesting. This particular function allows me to assign the reverb to the style or a MIDI file, which means that when I am picking my style or picking a MIDI file, the tempo of the MIDI file or the tempo of the style shall always control the reverb tap tempo. Okay, so I don't have to go back each time and keep on tapping the tempo to change it. No, the tempo and the reverb tempo, the tap tempo, are synchronized. So I can pick a style with 120 BPM and then later on pick one with 90. The reverb, the echo tempo will be synced up to that particular style. So that is very unique. Now you're getting into professional stuff, which is found on professional mixers, but we have it here on the Audia, and I figured I should actually share that with all of you out there today as well. So these are some things that are some neat tricks under the hat that you can work with when it comes to the Audia Vocalizer. You also have a compressor in here. If I can go into, let's see, not voice edit. I want to go into, oh, that's under the microphone, sorry. So let me get out of the vocalizer setting and let's get into the microphone setting. And you do that by pressing and holding the microphone button for 2 seconds. And then I can go into edit, okay? And now I can see microphone number 1 and microphone number 2. Audia has 2 microphone jacks in the back, and I can go in and edit these 2 microphones independently as well too. So again, I have reverb, echo settings, transformation. Again, the magic word here is the compressor, and I can go in and I can set up different compressor values. Most microphones you can hear right now as I'm going through the mic, and you can hear what it's doing with my voice, okay, as I'm picking up the different presets. Or I can go to user and I can program that as well. I can also program vibrato, make it light every time, you know, every time. Very subtle difference there. Or make it heavy. Every time I look into your lovely eyes. Make it slow. I see love that money just can't buy. I can work on the pitch. I can have auto pitch correction on, so I can have it lighter, so I can pitch correct myself so that my pitch is always in key, right? So there is a lot of things. There are a lot of things that you can do with the Audia, and you can get real deep with this. And remember that when you do this, okay, let's get in there and get that vibrato out and get my voice back to normal. So remember that when you do this, right, you can actually, again, save this as a registration. Okay, so all that you're doing right now, you can actually save that, so that when you're at home in the studio, you prepare everything and you save them as single registrations or master block registrations, super registrations. When you are at the show, at the gig, all you're doing is registration, recall, registration, recall, registration, and recall, and that's it. It's as simple as that. So I figured that we should talk about those particular features, because these are unique features and they're very interesting. Now I missed out one. Each time I'm thinking about it, I know, you know, some people say get a script, but I want to interact with the audience here. Someone just asked a question. Oh yeah, I was getting to that point. Someone just asked a question there about the bass. Okay, now there's a part in that song. Every time let's see, it was let's see what part it was again that we did. Where it goes to baby, right? Let's see. Anything you want, you got it. Anything you want, you got it. Okay, yes, there's a bass line there. So let's go back to the original tune. All right, there's a part there where the bass, when the chords change, the bass does not change. The bass stays on the lowest note. And I want to demonstrate that here real quick. So if I use a function here, bass to lowest, all right, watch that. So it plays that lowest note of the chord. So if I play, for example, a C chord, okay, and I invert it, it's going to play the root, the lowest note that I'm playing on my left, on the left of the split point. So let me do that, and I'm going to bring that to lowest in here. Let me show you what the panel looks like real quick, so you can see what the button I'm talking about, which is this button over here. Bass to lowest. You notice I was bringing that in and out at different times. So let's do that one more time. So So these are very subtle things, right? I mean, you can just play the arranger, right? Just get up there and just play. But then you sound like everybody else, right? So you try to be creative, you know, take out parts and don't just pick a style and just start playing right away. Normally in most songs, especially when the band is performing live, there are different parts or different sections of the music that come in at different times and different intervals. And that's why you heard me being creative in the beginning when I was doing my own, you know, introduction, played something along the lines of, let's see, can you see my feet, what I'm doing with my feet there? Okay. Bring my feet back. Where are they? There we go. Okay, so that's not in the song, but I was just being creative. I'm trying to do that as well. And then of course you can always start. You can bring down the take out the drums, take out the bass, and just start, you know, straight away. Nope, wrong chord. Again, when you're performing live, you can make mistakes, right? So here we go. Drum and bass. So just something for you guys to take home, right? Something nice and spicy. But yeah, so that should be pretty much it for today. I'm going to think about another example if I can and probably bring it up in the near future. But I don't want to keep these videos too long because, of course, some people have to take time to go back and digest some of these features. So I'll be saying ciao for today, and I shall see you all again very, very soon. Put in your requests again, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that whenever we come on, you get notified. And leave comments back there if what you want to see done. You know, if you want to see a particular feature demonstrated, you want to see a particular comparison or something that you don't understand in the manual, leave something on the comments and we definitely will get back to you and respond to you as soon as possible. Ciao. Have a beautiful day and nice weekend.